This is Breaking Patterns with Skye and Beth. We are on a quest to explore how our old ways of thinking and responding to the world keep us stuck.
If you are ready to get curious about what holds you back, pop open a generic seltzer water and let's get real.
Today, we have a really special episode. While Beth is out for the summer, I am bringing on two wonderful ladies, Abby McHale and Dr. Ruby Shah, who I have been working with for the past few months to help them build and develop a dream they have. A retreat series for women around infertility and the healing journey. This episode is really exciting for me because I have known Ruby for years and we met over poetry. After I wrote my first book, Ruby found me online. And now she has recently written her first book, which is the kind of the seed for this whole retreat that I'm helping her to plan. Abby McHale comes from Oregon, and for the past 15 years, she has been working with women one-on-one through ritualistic deep dive courses as a body worker specializing in the womb and pelvis. She has a degree in women's studies, a ceremonial and shamanic background, and extensive somatic training that she weaves together to awaken women to the power of the feminine and their worth and power as women. And Dr. Ruby Shah, MD, is a board-certified primary care physician. She holds 5 degrees and has decades of experience working in public health and with underserved communities. In 2025, she published her first full-length book of poetry titled Night Song for My Sisters, Endometriosis, Infertility, Loss, and Healing. Poems written while she was deep in the throes of her own healing journey with endometriosis and infertility. She has recently co-founded Leora, a primary care practice that embodies whole self-care and conscious living. I have been working with these ladies over the past few months, guiding them to create a healing retreat series for women. Our working title is Making Peace with Your Fertility Journey. And the first of these retreats will be offered in Hill Country near Austin, Texas, coming up in January or February of 2027. I'm really excited to share the story of how Abby and Ruby found each other and how the initial idea for this retreat was formed. So if you know anyone who is struggling, who has experienced endometriosis, infertility, wherever they are on their journey, I encourage you to share this podcast with them. We'll have information in the show notes about how you can get on the wait list to be the first one to register for this upcoming retreat and see when the next ones will show up, maybe in a town or state near you. All right, this is going to be a great one. So I'm here, your host, Skye, today with two wonderful ladies, Abby McHale and Ruby Shah, and I cannot wait to talk to you about what we are building for the community of women coming up in 2027. So welcome to the podcast, ladies.
Oh, I'm really happy to be here.
So can you guys take us back to the beginning?
What I have noticed just with women and any sort of pelvic trauma, whether it's through the fertility journey, whether it's sexual trauma, medical trauma, birth trauma, there is this like undercurrent that is so similar. And even from like my own experience through kind of like pelvic work, kind of my initiation into that has been through my own like sexual trauma and just listening to not only clients in all different realms of things going on with their pelvis, and then really talking with you, Ruby, about like getting into all the details of the fertility journey and the impact. There's so much mirrored. It also, I feel like it reflects back to that space of like women just healing their relationship with themselves and the feminine and the wisdom of the womb and the pelvis as well. That is so empowering, no matter kind of like what wounding you're working with. And I'm sure there like is naturally overlap with all of it just in the fertility journey too. Like there's no way that can't impact your sexuality or impact just like pelvic pain and just the experience with that part of your body in so many different ways. It's so complex and so many facets, but there's just a lot of overlap. And even anyone listening who may share this with a friend who doesn't necessarily have like their own journey of fertility, I think it's also important for like other women to look through the fertility journey in other women with a little more understanding and compassion as well.
Yes.
Mm. I love that. And so what can people expect at the retreat that helps to address some of that?
I think a lot of it is like doing that kind of somatic, like body meditation drop in, even just bringing your awareness to your pelvis and seeing if you can soften your belly and like your glutes and hips and pelvic floor and just relating to that part of your body. So a lot of times with the somatic work, it's almost like part work where you're dropping into these parts of your body, and even like sometimes you can let them speak or just pay attention to what emotions or visualizations come through. And even just like asking your body in this moment, like, what do you need right now? It can sometimes surprise us and be so simple, but the most powerful thing we can do. Because it's so easy to get like ahead in the future, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and it's all going to be better when this happens, or when I heal enough or grow enough or something manifests or whatever it may be. But coming back to like, what if there is like wholeness right now, and not just when I heal enough?
Yeah, I think when one of the things that really struck with me when you guys were talking about what we were building here is that so often when women are going through a journey of infertility, like whether or not you come out with a baby, it's still this incredible, wounding, for lack of a better word, right? But that oftentimes what you're left with, if you do come out with a baby, is it's like, well, there you go, problem solved, you're done, bye. And what you've kind of described is that no, there's still there is so much there that needs to be healed and reconciled. And then there's the ongoing, being a parent after having gone through an infertility journey and then ended up with this beautiful child. And then there's all the guilt and the other things wrapped around with it. And you said earlier, the throes of it. And so wanting to build this container where women can actually begin to heal all of those different layers and levels, not just what society or the medical practitioners say, okay, well, that's it, you're healed, you're done.
Right. And ironically, that's the healing in it, is to take the label off, like take it off, put it down. and and realize you're so much more. And it's the process of finally starting to be more than just somebody who had infertility, and realize how much you let that affect you. It's profound. So I purposely labeled my book Endometriosis, Infertility, Loss, and Healing to have that contrast to the other part of the real title, which is Night Song for My Sisters, because I feel like I finally am ready to be a member of a sisterhood, have relationships with women. And I wouldn't have come to that fullness of being a woman in today's society without all of those labels. I had to go through those things. That's my particular journey. So I feel like there's somebody where they resonate with any of those things, it's enough to try to package that for somebody, trying to make it a little bit more accessible. But at the same time, I don't have any expectations. I don't have all the answers, and I know my book doesn't, and I know our retreat is not meant to be that. So it really is just that, allowing the women to come together and just exist for a little bit. And yes, we're calling it fertility journey. But the whole point of it is to help people to start to shift away from just that, because the experience itself is so all encompassing. That's all you do. It's all you are, you know.
I think that's really important, is some of those things that when we talked about building out this retreat, like looking at, what are women feeling that are in the deep throes of this journey. One of the things that you mentioned, Ruby, was like that differentiation of somebody, like if you said, right? Like the true journey of infertility, different than, my experience with having kids. I had 2 miscarriages before I had a full-term pregnancy with my son. And that sucked, and it was hard and blah, blah, blah. But this is not the level of the journey that this retreat is essentially built for.
There's power in the wisdom, the lessons of infertility. And I'm grateful for this because we had just talked about it in our planning sessions. And I said to you guys, not that I will ever forget this, because this is a core part of me now, and I wouldn't have it if it weren't for my experiences in infertility, but nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed. And I learned that early on, both as a physician and the profound lack of control that we have over our patients' lives. And as, in that month after month after month, that I knew before I got pregnant that even if I got pregnant, it's probably not going to work out, or it's not going to this, just like there's this part of you that now is deeply practical and protective of yourself in a way that is powerful, very, very useful. But then just like everything, it's got the shadow aspects to it. Having had the 2 miscarriages, the fact that you can talk about them in that way is the difference between, my particular medicine, Night Song specifically, is a song about that like thing where you're like, I'm still in it's like, I'm still dealing with it. What is going on? Which then necessitates you going into the darkness, the shadow. Like, wait, I thought I was done, WTF. For me, that's why I've used the symbology of a cycle, because that's what it felt like. It returned to me was a certain amount of innocence and wonder and trust.
What did the healing, you mean?
Yeah.
The healing returned it.
Yeah.
So who are the women that are being called into this retreat? How will they know that it is for them?
I mean, again, I think that for us, as we've been building this together, I do have to kind of answer that for all 3 of us. Because for me, from the start, I've been saying this number of 1 in 6, we haven't budged that number. So that's 1 in 6 women who experience infertility. 1 in 6 couples used to be the number, 1 in 6. And it hasn't changed at all. And medically, that means that after a year of trying, and that includes experiences like yours, Skye, where, there's some losses and some difficulty, most normal, quote unquote, women will get pregnant. And so it's interesting because your initiation into your like label is already your othered. You're other, something wrong. And then the actual experience of everything that you do after that initiation into this world is highly traumatic. Look, there's multiple traumas that exist.
Like outside of, after you've already had the traumas of
After,
like maybe multiple miscarriages and
Yep.
all of that other, yeah.
Correct. Now you're in the trenches.
Now it's like
Uh,
you're like chosen trauma almost. Like I want to get
You're-
pregnant so bad that I'm choosing all of this additional trauma.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that is the person who, when you know,
Mhm.
I'm not concerned, because there's a lot of women like that, a lot of couples like that. And I don't want to, and we talked about this too, that I think it's very similar for same-sex couples who go through, who are already othered, as a result. And so then begin the actual treatment side of infertility, like the interaction with the medical aspects of it. And that whole thing is a spectrum. So I'm not saying you had to have gone through several cycles of IVF. But what I'm saying is those people who have been behind that veil and been in it, like they know we are keeping this small purposely because I'm not worried. I know the women who are meant to find us will find us. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you're listening right now and you know somebody that, whether it's you or somebody in your life that you want to share it with, go ahead and send this podcast to that person so that they can find a retreat because it's coming up. I mean, we're like
Yes.
in the planning stages, and it's going to be in the Austin area in January, February of 2027.
Yep.
And we have been hard at work, like putting together a wonderful, wonderful experience at a beautiful location, yet to be determined. When you think about the women that are coming into this space, how might they be feeling as they enter? And then what do you hope changes for them after they spend the weekend in this experience, in this container? As I say container, it makes me think of like Tupperware container. So, yeah, like a pouch, a satchel.
Yeah, I like that.
What's they come in and out of the satchel? What's going to change for them?
I think there's one aspect of feeling really isolated, and it's either like being around other women and people who don't really get it and don't really understand like the magnitude of emotion and grief and just overwhelm that comes with it, that to actually have a space you can go into where everybody does get it and knows that, and it's welcome and it's not too much and it's not too big and you're not taking up too much space, and like you actually get to be held and feel the feelings that need to be felt. There's so much power in that being witnessed, like not just something you do by yourself, but being witnessed in it. And there's these like overlapping layers too of it being something so personal and so close to home and so individual, but then to also come in a space with other women who have also experienced this, to witness each other and hear each other, like you're naturally going to feel so felt and heard and seen because they do get it. And the other thing that I'm holding dear in my heart for this too is to really come out with another level of awakening to just the sacredness of your pelvis and being alive in a female form and having a body, and like how much wisdom and insight is there. And to backtrack a little too, like when Ruby was talking about going through the layers of deciding like what is this that I want to offer? I want to make the biggest impact, in that mindset of like going in from structure. I want to reach the most amount of people. I want to hit the practitioners and do all this, but there's so much that comes back to like holding space to just heal our relationship with ourselves and to tap into our own knowing and wisdom, because there's this piece that's lost in that journey where there is so much angst and grief and like longing that we lose this access to presence and pleasure and joy and actually just soaking up the life that we do have, and being able to come in your relationship with yourself and your body, and like from that somatic viewpoint to come and just like take it one step at a time can be so like just the mental and emotional and spiritual just health, regardless of all of the medical and what's happening with your body, like that in itself is so needed.
I love what you said about holding space. So like holding space, I feel like that's a word a lot of people use, and it may mean different things to different people. But when you said that part about being seen and how powerful it can feel to be seen when you feel like your experience, like you're the only one who's lived this experience, or you're isolated, or nobody understands it, or you've gone through something that you have to continually explain to everybody. They're always asking you how it's going, or they're assuming that they know how you feel when you don't, or there's things that you just you can't explain to anyone who hasn't been through it. That in and of itself is it's such a powerful healing medicine, being seen.
And I love that reminder, Abby, again. I could just like really feel it in my body. we discussed having at the ending on some type of experience for the women who attend that's pleasurable. You know, we talked about having a feast for the senses, just to remind them that you're alive, you're still in a body. It's still, you know, you're still sovereign within that body. And it can be so easy for any woman to forget, regardless of, you know, their experiences. That is so beautifully put in how you described it.
I love it. So at what point did your work together start to turn into, hey, we need to collaborate. We need to bring this work to more women?
Yeah, because I think we had done like a series of sessions and then you reached out, Ruby, and we just kind of met up on a Zoom call and you shared a little bit more about what you were doing. And this is where it started to like, was like, what? Like, I had no idea, just the doctor background paired with everything that we had just done together in our session, where the more you shared about just like your vision and what you were doing, and just kind of planted the seed of maybe there's something here. And then over time, as it kind of developed a little bit more and you got a little bit more clarity, you kind of hit a point where I was like, oh, that's it. That's what we're gonna do.
When we were having those conversations, the collective, you know, energetically was going through a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. So I felt like I personally still I had made a leap. It's like I wanted to do this. It was coming through. I knew I felt like I had birthed it, but I kept trying to force it into
Wait,
an
what's
old.
the it? Tell us what the it is.
The it being our, I think we're going to call it rooted in, but this rooted in series of retreats and making a container for women anywhere along the journey, but more specifically to allow them to separate a little bit, gain some perspective, heal, and then keep working. So like as they're going through integration of wherever they're at in their infertility healing journey.
So you're
Be-
specifically wanting to create this container for women navigating some kind of infertility journey, whether
right.
they've
Yeah.
navigated all the way through or they're still in the midst of it or whatever, right?
But when I talked to Abby, I was so up in the ethers that it was too broad and too huge because I was still attached to some of the training that comes from my traditional medical connection, my background, which is still you know, a part of me. It will always be a part of me. So it's easy to think like biggest impact, you know, and where is the biggest need? So as a physician and somebody who's worked in public health, I literally know those numbers. So I was like, this is so desperately needed. So how do we make this type of information available at the broadest level? And that for me, what was profound in working with Abby as a partner, and then really when we started talking, Skye, was that understanding of the biggest impact doesn't necessarily have to happen in the biggest space. That's been the message for me in working with the feminine and really even endeavoring to embody, you know, the feminine is it's so much more complex than that. You know, if it was just one simple straight path, then we'd be on it, you know, and we have tried many paths, and that's the wisdom of going down your own individual one, right?
In the void of the feminine and woman, and so much beyond just the more superficial side of medicine without considering the individual of the person, and then realizing that you also have this background and want to bridge these worlds. It was like, oh wow, like there's definitely something here that we need to follow.
So Ruby, you were recovering from your ankle surgery then when you reached out to Abby. So like tell us a little about your journey, because I know it wasn't necessarily the ankle. I know the ankle always played a part in it, but the infertility journey piece that really, and your healing of the feminine in the womb. Tell us a little bit more about where you were there that caused you to reach out at that point.
So it's interesting because as Abby mentions the flower essences, in retrospect now, I know that it was the essences, and the wisdom in them. And next stage in my spiritual growth was in what I'm going to call sort of finding allies in the natural world, these plant beings who are just exquisitely precise in their medicine for you. And it's something that I often do things backwards. I know you guys both know that because I say it all the time, but you also like get it because you know me. So I did it backwards. I got the flower essences, and for me, I needed that chakra essence that Abby barely got to me in time. She actually like went and sent me a message that like, here it comes. So that was my second set of flower essences. But when I received the initial flower essence, I'm telling you, from my perspective, I couldn't have finished the book without their voice. And that one poem that I sent you, Abby, I included in the collection because that and a couple of others that I wrote during that time with those flower essences, I really feel like that was really truly meant to happen. And it was putting a profound closure, a coming full circle for me to my infertility journey, and allowing me to then be present for me. It's not just symbolic that you go down to heal, and in the process of having spent like years in my womb area in my pelvis, now I was ready for the feet. Like I was ready for the ankle, I was ready for my root healing. And that's really what Abby and I worked on in our somatic sessions together, was a lot of my root wounding and barriers and issues that that then came to me very quickly because I'd learned so much from doing the same work in the pelvis. It was a lot longer. Yeah, so the flower essences were definitely I think they're just like, they were the bosses. I feel like they were in charge. We just thought we were.
Loading.
Yeah.
How did you start doing flower essences? Where did that begin for you?
I think someone had just given me a bottle one time and it just opened. Like, I just started making them and I just did it for myself. And it just like took over me. And I just fell in love with them and just started making them like crazy. And before I knew it, I had like a closet full of tinctures, and I wasn't even selling them or anything. And they just have such a profound impact on your being. It felt like a whole like energetic download or upgrade when like not only just taking them too, but making them. You just get so much insight, and it would move so much just energy and understanding. And yeah.
How do you know which flower essence a person needs?
I would say it's very intuitive, and I feel like I do it a little differently than they're typically made, where I've kind of made like a pact with myself that I won't like read about, because you can look them up online and it's like one flower will have the same sentence on like
Right.
every website kind of thing. And I will not read about them, but just kind of make them when I feel the call and see what comes through. And even like making the same ones in different times, I feel like there's so much different impact with like what's going on collectively or in astrology or even in my own like personal life and kind of unraveling of whatever. So they always have like their own little different flavor, but then it's the same like when I'm working with people, I'll just kind of get a sense of what feels like it will be of best service, or I'll have people, sometimes people even just email me and share like a little snippet of what's going on, and then I can send them like my ideas of what ones are coming through and see like which one feels more like the vibe that they're wanting.
And so what did you bring for Ruby? What did you put together for her?
Ruby, I think that you were called to
I
the dark
picked.
feminine set and picked it. And it was wild too, because that set, I had like just finished making all of those. And I feel like even making those was kind of like the precipice of my own pelvic healing, even though it wasn't necessarily around fertility, but just that energy is so healing for any sort of pelvic trauma or grief or anything like that. But then shortly after Ruby got them, like a huge wildfire went through the valley where they were all made as well, which just felt
Yeah, I remember you
really,
sending me that in email, and I just felt like, wow. For some reason I didn't feel sad. It was I can't remember if we actually said this in the email or we just like telepathically communicated this, but I felt like they were in the air.
yeah.
That was my sense.
That's beautiful. So, what would you say to a woman that was hearing all of this and thinking, okay, this sounds wonderful and I relate to this, but a retreat? Like how is that going to help? Or maybe feeling guilty about going on a retreat or nervous about going on a retreat? Like what would you say to them?
Well, I can speak to that because that's how I felt going to your first retreat. Skye. It was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. I knew I was going to do it, already signed up, told my husband, did all the things and booked my travel and then didn't want to come, and like almost didn't come. Which now, having been to a few of your retreats, that's what everybody says. Literally every woman says that. So
Yep.
and then by the end, you know everybody and you're hugging them. And I am a deep introvert. Like, don't like talking to people. I love people and I love talking to them, but I have my limits. So it was unbelievable the amount of healing that I received from every single person. And it's been like that every retreat. So wide retreats comes from a deep disbeliever and unbeliever. The reason I came to the first retreat is I knew I had to do something, you know, and I was going to show up for whatever you were going to do, Skye. So like, to be honest, I was like, I just, won't spend too much time in the whatever, but I'm gonna go. I think that following the resonance as opposed to like whatever preconceived notions that you have about retreat is my advice, but also like you're still gonna not want to go and freak out because I feel like it's just a natural part of how we're conditioned as women living in this world is it's scary to hang out with other women. It's terrifying.
But when it gets good, there is like nothing else like it.
There is nothing else. Those are the two, that's it.
Yeah, and sometimes when we have that kind of head-based resistance, the intrusive thoughts resistance to something, that's when we know, okay, shit, I maybe really ought to lean into this.
I better go.
And there is just like nothing else that's quite like like when you just look at kind of the pool of healing modalities and things you can do. I feel like that communal aspect of the retreat and having a longer span of time than just like a workshop or a single circle, there's like an intimacy that is built there, but also like you have enough time to actually like get to that place to drop in where you feel safe and your armor can start to go down, and it gives time for like the nerves to actually go away and then fully like settle in and enjoy too. And I find that like as a facilitator, there's something like that I love about retreats versus anything else, because the time, it's just so good.
Yeah. Yeah, I would echo that. I think even for me, when I host retreats, I feel that. Like I feel that moment where everything lets go. And it's usually on day 2, sometime after breakfast, where I'm like, okay, yeah, like I'm here, I'm in it, and I'm feeling it. And I think that in and of itself, for some people, is where the fear resides of, when you've gone for so long, preventing yourself from feeling the deep recesses of your emotions, that going into a space where you know that's all going to open up, that is really, really hard, or it can feel really scary.
Mm.
So, okay, where can people go to find more information? So if they are interested in this retreat, how are they going to sign up?
We're going to host the retreat at Leora Integrative Care Services.com. So we'll link below, etc. And at this point, it's a wait list. But that way you'll be contacted as soon as we have a location, and you can sign up and we'll send you links. Also, this is the time when we're building the community. So we actually will be doing some Zoom meetings and events beforehand, which even if you don't want to attend the retreat, we're going to be hosting these events. We're going to be posting videos, Abby and I, Stacy and I, Skye, surprise, surprise. We're going to have material available to women, and it's not just geared towards infertility. It's more so about the sisterhood and the connection. So really, hopefully, creating this community for anyone listening today.
And if it's helpful too to know, the vision is to continue to do retreats, so that if you are listening to this and it's past that date, or
Yeah, because we're going to do this again and again, right?
That's the idea.
Is there anything else you want to tell our listeners?
maybe imagine what it would feel like to go and have it just completely fill your cup and release so much pressure and weight that you've been carrying alone. Like, especially if you feel nervous, like actually imagining, like, what if this is exactly what I need? Like, what would that feel like in my body and my heart and in my soul? And like, how that also then ripples into the relationships you have, and just kind of the extra stress this kind of grief and pressure can impact the rest of our lives too, to just consider what it feels like to have a little hope and faith.
I love that. I think that for me, I would like to speak to my past self. This is beyond any dream come true for me. So for my past self, we made it, and look at us now.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. And I'm really, really, really excited about being a part of this. It has been so much fun to watch you all formulate this vision and see it actually coming into place. And we're at the point right now where we're getting ready to solidify our venue and really make the announcement for dates, tickets, and scholarships and stuff, hopefully by the end of the summer. So
Yes.
thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time.